What's your next picture?
What? Oh, after that I'm not sure. We had one last Friday for homecoming, then one tomorrow.
I would have known that. I would have come this way.
It's okay. Hey, we're gonna have one I think in November probably.
That always happens.
Send out the details for sure.
Okay, good evening everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for this special event. The School of Communication Studies is honored to have you all with us tonight as we launch our first in-person Bobcat-to-Bobcat event of the year. My name is Anthony Marisola, and I am a student representative for the Comms Alumni Advisory Council. Tonight's topic, developing a professional credo, will not only help aspiring college students, but also aid professionals already in their career. Our presenter tonight, Karen Atwell, is an extremely accomplished comms alumni and a dynamic leader. Karen graduated Ohio University in 2018 with a master's degree in organizational communication. In addition to this, she is also the chair of the Comms Alumni Advisory Council. She has over 35 years of experience in leadership, consulting, and coaching experience. Currently, she is the CEO and chief strategist at Dynamic Perspectives. Previous to this role, she also held a vice president role. Personally, she resides in Florida, Maine, and Columbus. In these locations, it's important for her to promote the education, health, and well-being of the young generation. So please help me give a warm welcome to Karen Atwell.
Lovely, thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? Is the mic on and working? Okay. Hi, I'm Karen Atwell, and Anthony, thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. Anthony's done a good job of giving you a little bit of an overview of what I've done in my life. What he hasn't done is really told you who I am. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. What's the difference between what you've accomplished and who you truly are? Because as an employer myself, and somebody who has hired any number of people over my career, I can tell you that we look at the resume, that's kind of what gets you in the door. But what we're really looking for are people that have the values and the goals and the attitude towards work and towards other people that we're looking for. That's going to support the culture within our organization. And so often, most leaders, and I will tell you this has nothing to do with age or experience, most people out there, if I say, who are you? They start with their resume. Right? In New England, interesting, when you say to somebody, well, who is that? They tell you where that person lives. Right? Kind of crazy. Well, I don't really care what house they live in. Who are they? Then I get their resume. This is what they've done. This is where they've worked. So tonight we're going to work together. All of you are going to learn how to identify how you would explain to an employer or explain to anyone, quite frankly. This could be your family, it could be your kids, it could be a committee that you're going to sit on here at Ohio University. It could be any number of places that you would be able to describe who you are in a way that supports what they're really going to find when they work with you and spend time with you. Does that make sense? I do this work with senior executives all over the world. I coach in the Middle East quite a bit. We have clients all over the world. Joining me tonight is Layla Sweet, retired Lieutenant Colonel Layla Sweet, who used to run ROTC here at Ohio University and lives in Athens. And we do a lot of consulting in this particular bucket, helping leaders articulate who they are. Why do you think it's important for you to do that? Okay.
Sorry.
What did she say?
Sorry. I just needed to be repeated, but like to articulate who you are, like why it's important. I think like people who are looking to hire you, like they want to know that you are like not only like a high quality like worker, but also just a high quality person, because people like working with like people they can get along with and that are amicable. So they just want to know like you like first before like your accomplishments. I think it like helps people. It makes things more like personal and human to like know someone.
Sure. have been on an interview for an internship? Okay? How many of you are graduating in the next year or two? Okay. And we have any graduate students in here? Okay, great, good. All right. Okay, so this is coming up for you all the time, right? I'm going to tell you a story about myself, throw myself completely under the bus, and then I'm going to put you guys to work, so just so you can start the anticipation inside of having to do something. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a story. So I was the senior vice president of asset management for Bank of America's private bank in Chicago. My group of 14 portfolio managers ran $100 billion in assets for wealthy individuals across the United States. I had an opportunity to take a promotion with Bank of America and move to Philadelphia and run Bank of America Investments, their brokerage division, over 3 states on the East Coast, right in the middle of 3 bank mergers. This all sounds very important, right? It's just still me, but yeah. So they offered me this position, and I took it. So now I've got to move my family. I'm the sole working spouse in the family at that time. My husband was a stay-at-home dad. I had a child. So what's on my mind? What are you thinking about when you have to move? Or what were you thinking about when you came to OU as a freshman?
Like where you're gonna live and like who you're gonna meet, like if you're gonna meet new friends. And
Right?
stuff.
What else?
How difficult the transition from to a new place is going to be.
Right? Anything else?
You don't really know anyone in the workplaces you're going.
Right? Are they going to like me? So I'm thinking about myself. I fly to Philadelphia to meet my team. I'm going to lead 100 people. Not only are those 100 people at this very swanky sort of lunch club called the Union League Club in Philadelphia, not only are those 100 people there, but all of the mucky-mucks in the organization are there. Many of the leaders above me, from my boss and my boss's boss and my boss's boss's boss. This is a pretty important position because of everything that was going on in the marketplace. What are they thinking about?
Does she seem like a right fit for the job? Does
Right.
she seem like a good person?
Right? What else are they thinking about?
Who's this going to impact them?
Yeah, so anybody gotten a new boss, or when you walk into a new classroom and there's a teacher, what are you thinking about?
Are they good at what they do or not?
Yeah, do they know what they're doing? Right? What else do you want to know about them?
What they're expecting out of me?
Yeah, what do they want from me? How do I make a contribution here? It is no different out there in the real world. So I'm thinking about myself, and I've got a meeting with a realtor the next day. My husband and daughter are flying in later that night. I don't like bridges, and Philadelphia is full of them, so I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to drive over a bridge at night, because I got anxiety about that. I am 100% focused on me. I don't even know where my office is, so I'm focused on me. 100 people in the room focused on themselves. And that's what it's important for you to remember. Is when you go in for an interview, you're focused on you. You're thinking about, am I going to get this job? Do I look okay? Am I going to say the right thing? That's not what they're thinking about. They're thinking about you. And how it's going to impact them. Is this the right person for me to hire? Is this person going to work out? Are they going to pick this up fast? Are they going to fit into the culture? So I get up in front of this room. Now, I've been an executive for many, many years. Like, I've been doing this for a long time. I keep getting promoted. So I'm successful, by all accounts. I get up in front of this room. I was unaware of the fact that I hadn't done this, but I had prepared nothing. Anybody finally, you land the interview and you're like, okay, I got the interview, and then you just show up for the interview? Right? Well, that's what I did. I showed up in front of 100 people. I had prepared nothing. So they got something like this. They got, wow, there's a lot of people in this room. It's the first thing out of my mouth. And then I said something brilliant like, I'm really looking forward to working with all of you. I'm going to spend some time getting to know all of you. My husband and my daughter are flying in tonight. We're working with a realtor tomorrow, so now I'm gonna talk about what I'm doing, right? And we're gonna find a place to live quickly. I'm looking forward to seeing what we can accomplish together, bringing this group together. I mean, it's all fluff. I've got no game. And that job, which, because of my introduction, because there was 100 people out there saying none of my questions got answered. I don't know who she is. I don't know what she wants from me. I don't know where we're going. It took me almost a year to recover in building relationships with those folks because I got off on the wrong foot, and it was absolutely my fault. If I had walked into that room, if I had understood what it would be like to work for me as a leader, I would have been able to stand up in front of that room and say, thank you for introducing me, Anthony. That was beautiful. What Anthony did here was help you understand what I've done in the past. Now let me help you understand who I am and what we're in for together. So I want you to know that I believe in delivering excellence for ourselves and for our clients. If anything is worth doing, it's worth doing our very best right out of the gate. I also believe that everybody gets lots of chances to try, to fail, and to improve. So as long as we're working together to do that, let's treat each other with care and empathy and give ourselves lots of room to fail. I could have opened with something like that, where I helped everybody understand what I believe. But I didn't, and 2 years later I left the industry for good. I just left. I literally I didn't walk off the job in one day, but I told my boss I don't want to do this anymore because I don't understand what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing right, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I've been studying leadership now for a little over 20 years, since I left that position. And what I have learned is that leadership starts with yourself. It starts with self-understanding. And when we can present ourselves in a way that helps employers, helps our families, helps our neighbors and our friends, but mostly helps us understand where we come from and what's important to us, then it doesn't matter. We can safely show up as ourselves every single day. Our whole self can show up, because if we understand who we are and what's important to us, and we express that to others, then our behavior is going to match that. And people can hire us based on our desired environment fitting into their culture. Does that make sense? So we do this by identifying our core values. That's a really great place to start. What at the core is important to me? So for me, for instance, at the core of who I am, excellence is really important to me. I can tell you where it came from. It came from my dad, who said over and over again, if it's worth doing right the first time. And I just have absorbed that. I have to make my bed beautifully every day. Because if I'm going to take the time to make my bed, I'm not going to do a half a job. Because every time I walk in and look at it, I'm going to say, I didn't do a very good job of that. What was the point? So I know that's important to me. So that's one of my core values. Another one of them is fun, having fun, right? And being able to see humor. So one of my values is humor and being able to see when the chips are down, when everything is difficult. That I use humor as a way to demonstrate resilience. Resilience is a very great, very important quality today in life, but certainly in business. So I do that through humor. No matter how bad it is, I say to myself, what's funny about this situation? And there's always something. So what I would like for you to do is to spend a little bit of time tonight thinking about what's at the core of who you are. What's really important to you? Not what do I want from a job, or what do I want, what's important to you? If somebody said, what's the most important thing to you behaviorally, as a human being, what's at the core of who you are, what would you say? Now, in most situations, we have surveys for this and cards that you can sort and all kinds of fancy things. But what I'm gonna ask you to do is to just spend 30 seconds thinking about one value that's important to you. If you're having trouble even thinking about, like, what is a value and what's that look like, you can pick up your phones and you can Google core values inventory, and you will get many pictures of lists of words that represent core values. So feel free to do that. I won't be offended at all. I'm going to hold silence here, or hold space for you to do that. I want you to think of one value or two, if you can find two, that are really core to who you are. Okay, 60 seconds is a long time when nobody's saying anything. So everybody have at least one core value that really sort of resonates with you, maybe a couple of them. So I want you to grab a shoulder partner, just find somebody that you can share this with, and I want you to just share your value and define it out loud. So this is the talking part. So share your value with your partner and define it. How do you define that word? Okay, I'm going to give you 1 minute to wrap it up, so keep going. 1 minute. together? Let's come back together. So what was that like? What did you hear from your shoulder partner?
So what we talked about is that, because Hannah said that her core value was independence, and I said mine was companionship, and Joe kind of said like the same thing. And so we were talking about how those things all can kind of be good and bad, because it's good to be able to rely on yourself, but also good to be able to rely on other people. So we were talking about like the mix of that and how to balance it.
Sure, great. Who else?
We kind of talked about like relationships with friends and family, and just how important it is to be loyal to your friends and family, and about how communication is really the key factor in having those relationships.
That's great. So you saw alignment in your core values just having these conversations, right? We have teamwork, we have independence, we have loyalty. What else?
Mine was equality and respect, and this was having like a strong work ethic, and I think that, and I was also like kind of talking to them, and hers was maintaining friendships, and hers was empathy, and I think that like after all talking, we all were like, yeah, I agree with that. Like we all kind of have like the same like core values. It's just like what's like most important to you. Like I think after saying one thing, it's like, oh yeah, same. Like I agree with that. It's just like what you hold dear to like your heart.
Absolutely, yes.
I want to agree with what Sydney said, because like one of Joe's values was respect, and I believe that all of us, like she was saying, have a piece of everything in us, and like necessarily because like respect wasn't my core value, it doesn't mean that I don't have that, and because companionship wasn't like my core value, it doesn't mean like I don't have that either. So I think this conversation was good to figure out what the core values were and what other core values you have but didn't like think about knowing, like didn't know that you had.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we have in the executive world, we have a deck of cards that Layla and I use. It has 87 cards, and on each card is a different word, a different value. And we do a sorting exercise where we give a deck of cards to all these adults and CEOs, it doesn't matter. And we have them sit there at the table and sort these words out, and they all have a good time doing this. So we ask them to put them in 3 piles: not important to me, important to me, and very important to me. And that's what you're experiencing here. So we didn't have to give you a deck of cards. You're already smarter than a CEO. Okay? You're already realizing that all of the words, all of the values are good. They're all good. Nobody would disagree with any of them. But when the rubber meets the road, when the zombie apocalypse arrives, you want to be independent.
That's so bad.
No, it's not.
That's terrible.
You know, mine was like excellence. Like, what's that all about? Why isn't it love or, it's something wonderful? But it's not. It's like excellence. Let's get, One of mine is achievement. Not that I like to say I don't need to win. I want everybody to win. But if I win a little bit better, more than everybody else, then that's okay. It's achievement. So I was a salesman for a long time because I was achievement oriented and I could manage my own time. I'm very independent also, so I like that word. Right? All of these core values are good values. And the one thing to note is that when you figure out what it is that really makes you run, what it is that you're, at the end of the day, I'm going to go to the mat on this. At the end of the day, family is at the core of everything you do. And that plays at the workplace too, because you have a workplace family. When you get out there and start working, you're going to realize you spend more time with your work people than you do with your family people. And your work people tend to get the best of you. Your family people tend to get the worst of you. It's just the way it is. The people that we love the most are the ones that we show our worst self to, right? So it's important to understand that everybody has different values, and when tension is high, when stress is high, when we're in hugely changing environments, each of us is going to lean into something different. So when we talk about emotionally safe or psychologically safe environments? What is it that we can do to help create that?
What was that?
Offer counseling services.
Offer counseling services. So when we think about core values, and we all have different core values, so when everything is super stressed, we're all going to go to our own core values. Whatever the company values are, they're very nice for us to talk about, and we like to live them on a day-to-day basis. But when it's really tough at work, what can we do to protect a good, healthy environment?
I think just being open with each other and understanding that everybody's different.
Yep, and that's kind of the same as counseling services. It's this idea of being open.
At work, I feel like if you're having like one of those days, maybe taking like 5-10 minutes, walk away, and maybe get like water or something and just recuperate a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like gonna go off what Lauren said, how she said like be open. I think it's important to have creating a safe environment to where people feel like they can be open to share things. Because if like your work environment, you don't feel like you can share like how you're feeling and
Right.
you're going to. So I think creating that environment for people is really important.
Absolutely.
I think staying to your own responsibilities rather than trying to work like above you, because then you're gonna get stressed and get mad.
I think allowing flexibility in the workplace is super important.
I know it's a cliche, but I feel like if you abide the golden rule, treat others how you want to be treated, because we all have these different credos, so if we exemplify them, then it will reflect and everyone will get along.
Generally, there are mutual values also there. The employee and organization, that's where people are stay somewhere. So on the stressful times, we can focus on those values and talk more about them, so that can keep us together through those tough times and then back to those things.
I love this. Everything that I'm hearing from you guys points to the same place. It points to this open communication. Share with each other. Talk about the fact this is a really stressful environment. How's everybody else feeling? We're all really stressed. Okay, let's sit down and talk about what the values are that are important to all of us collectively to be able to get through this. So we actually teach people in corporations to take that deck of cards out, and when they're struggling as a team, for the team to get together and spread them out on the table, and for everybody to start picking until they've decided these are the 3 that we're going to lean into to get through this. Core values offer us so much. And you've also answered a few other questions, because how many of you have heard interview questions like this? Can you think of a time when those are called behavioral interviewing questions. They really stink. You don't see them coming, right? But this is the stuff that behavioral interviewing answers comes from. If you know your core values, and I say to you, when things really get tough and your team is under a lot of pressure, what's the kind of thing that you would do? Well, I think I'd probably get a core values inventory sheet and ask everybody to, don't do it. But you're from your own gut, you're coming up with answers and responses to that. And that's called understanding yourself. Leaders lead first from a self-understanding. A self-understanding. If I'm a leader, my product is me. That's what you're buying. And you don't even get a choice, because I'm now your boss, right? But you're buying me. So what I need to be able to do is help you understand who I am and what you're going to get when you get me. And then I got to show up like that every day. And if I try to fake you out, it won't work, because I can only show up as myself. So understanding who I am, having self-awareness, is the first step in being a great leader or a great contributor in an organization. So here's where we go with this next. You've got a core value or 2 that you chose, and you've defined it out loud. Now I want you to take a minute, and I want you to write a statement that starts with the words, I believe. And I want you to say, because of this value, what is it that I believe? So, for instance, 2 of my values are achievement and innovation. Those are very important to me. I need an environment where I can achieve things and where I can innovate. So my Credo statement, my I believe statement is, I believe that wild ideas create wild success. Okay? So I want you to come up with an I believe statement for your value. Everybody got it? It's hard to know in this side of the classroom where we get to the end of writing the I believe statement and we start texting our boyfriend or girlfriend, so I'm almost done, we're almost out of here. You took the pizza. Please do it over there because we've got lots of pizza. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, credos are no good. This idea of understanding who I am is no good unless I verbalize it. So this is where it gets tough. Where it gets tough is my ability to actually share this with somebody. Right? Because these are sort of our deepest, darkest places when we talk about core values. Not darkest places, but deepest, lightest places, actually. The things that make us work. So we're going to pull back the curtain, and I'm going to ask each one of you to stand up and boldly go where no one's gone before. And each person just make one I believe statement. Okay? Nobody's leaving the room, so that's good. We're doing okay so far. Can we start at the top of the chairs?
Sure.
Yeah.
Because of my values, I believe that to revoke a person's right to become a better person is to damn them forever to failure.
My core value was innovation or discovery, and I believe that diversity can lead to innovation.
Excellent.
I believe that life's all about balance. Balance is my core value.
So my core value is growth and optimism, so I believe there's always opportunity to grow.
Excellent.
Mine was kindness, because I believe kindness can bring about wonderful opportunity.
Mine was commitment, and I said I believe you cannot have depth without commitment and humility.
Okay.
My value is community, and I believe in a space where everyone feels comfortable being themselves, the space where the best work is done.
Excellent. I don't know.
Yes.
You want us to do
You go right ahead. You got it. Get the faculty in here.
I believe that to maintain our integrity, we must be willing to accept constructive criticism and share our own perspectives with the goal of success and not to create barriers.
Wonderful.
My value is collaboration, and I believe that the best solutions require honest and transparent discussion.
Yeah.
I think that I believe having empathy gives you the ability to truly step into somebody else's shoes.
Excellent.
I said that I believe that balancing work, family, and friends results in a healthy body and in a healthy mind.
I said that I believe that everyone deserves to feel like someone.
Mine was empathy, and I said I believe understanding a person goes much further than knowing a person. Mine was friendships, and I said I believe that vulnerability goes both ways.
was respect and equality, and I believe that everyone should be treated with dignity and respect no matter what they look like or their beliefs.
Mine was work ethic, and I said that I believe hard work beats talent when the head doesn't work hard.
Excellent. Let's go over here.
My core values are learning and continual growth. So my values, I believe in continual improvement is possible by having a learning attitude, and learning requires openness to feedback.
Fabulous.
I believe in actively looking for ways to build relationships. I believe in listening to the wisdom of others free of judgment.
I believe that the recipe for success is built upon integrity, respect, and compassion.
Okay. Yes? No, we're gonna get it.
Mine was integrity. I believe that if I show up with integrity, I will invite others to trust me and to reciprocate.
Wonderful.
I believe happy people can be successful people.
That's good.
I believe that, I believe that judgment can be overcome by open-mindedness.
Great.
I said that the strongest and most effective connections are made with trust.
Trust.
I believe friendship starts with respect and trust.
My value was communication, and I said, I believe that if you share your emotions and are understanding of others, it will lead to healthier relationships.
My value is companionship, and I said, I believe that when looking into finding yourself, you find a combination of the people you love.
I said that I believe that independence creates a strong person.
I believe that love manifests itself in an interest and care of another person, and that at the end of the day, if you can't show love and respect to your neighbor, you're not making the world any better.
Got one, Roger?
I have two. I have Dr. Harder's from the live stream. Dr. Harder's is, I believe vulnerability is the birthplace of creativity.
Excellent.
And then mine is, I believe everyone is capable of greatness if they commit to it, and everyone is capable of inspiring others to greatness if they show them grace.
Fantastic. It's good to hear from you, Dr. Harder, so thank you very much for being here. Did we get any other from the live stream?
That's the only one I have from the live stream.
So how does that feel to say it out loud?
Great.
Nobody had a frown on their face. Everybody smiled. That might have been a little bit of embarrassment, but I think it's also speaking your truth feels good, right? So imagine a cover letter to a potential employer that says, I'm really excited about this job. I said, blah, blah, blah. And you get to that second paragraph and you say, the resume attached will show you what I've done, what I've accomplished. Let me tell you a little bit about who I am. And what if you just had 2 or 3 I believe statements to put down there? Do you think that sets you apart? I know that I use my Credo all the time now. And I'll tell you a story. One of my Credo, in my official Credo statement that I've used with the people who work with me, one of them is this idea of I believe in delivering excellence. If it's worth doing right, it's worth doing right the first time. That was the verbiage that was in there. And then the third statement is I believe that everybody deserves lots of chances to try, fail, and to improve. So let's treat each other with respect and empathy, each other and ourselves with respect and empathy and forgiveness. So I had somebody who was working with me who was really struggling with making sure that when she came to me with any kind of output, that it was perfect. She didn't want to show it to me until it was perfect. Excuse me. So I said to her, you know that I believe that you get lots of chances to try, fail, and to improve. So I'm not quite sure why, you can't bring this out and show it to me midstream so that we can work on it together and improve it. She says, yes, but number 1 is I believe in delivering excellence. If it's worth doing right, it's worth doing right the first time. So I'm not going to show up without a perfect product. And I learned a lot when she said that to me. Actually, I laughed for quite some time. Because she caught me. She caught me in sort of the crossover of these core values and how important They are. She listened and internalized that so much that it was keeping her from getting her work done. That's the power of a credo. So I have to modify the way I express those things, and maybe the order that they're in. Because it's far more important to me that people try, fail, and improve than it is that they show up with something perfect the first time. Because I don't get it perfect most of the time. Okay? So I want to thank you, first of all. I want to leave some time for questions, so we have 15 minutes for questions, and I'll answer questions on anything that has to do with interviewing and leadership. So the floor is open. But I want to thank you for taking this journey with me and the risk of putting yourself out there. Understanding who you are and what your values are, that's one big piece of this. Being able to express it to others with the knowledge that you don't have to really work very hard because you're going to show up naturally that way anyway. Right? So now you can just show up at work and not worry about it. Because you're going to show up because you know who you are and you've expressed it and shared it. And that's the value of a credo. You can Google personal credos. There's all kinds of information out there. There's all kinds of exercises. It's not hard to find me on LinkedIn. Any of you can link into me. I'll be happy to accept invitations. I'll be happy to talk with you anytime you want to, exchange information with you through emails or texts. So please feel free to reach out to me, but there's lots of information out there about how you can do this and do it more deeply if you're interested in going further. Okay? What questions can I answer for you?
What are some of the ways that you first got into leadership? Because I know for me, growing up, my dad always told me to be a leader, not a follower. And so I'm looking for ways to try to apply that right now as I'm going through college.
Sure, absolutely. So leadership is really, every one of us is a leader every single day. So the first thing we lead is ourselves. Beyond that, the only way we can be leaders is if people are following us. So we have to be able to know who we are as a leader and be able to inspire a shared vision, some sort of a journey that people are willing to go on. So there's a difference between management and leadership. The etymology of the word management is to handle, do it with your hands, right? So it's the work that you do. It's the stuff that you're actually compensated for. But the reality is if you want followership, you have to do more of that leadership stuff. And leadership, the etymology of that word is to take others on a journey. So leadership is all about creating a journey, which is making sure that you have that vision. So first it starts with understanding who I am and how I'm going to be able to show up as that leader, and then to make sure that I'm inspiring a shared vision that makes other people want to go on a journey with me to accomplish things. Did that answer your question, or was that too esoteric? Okay, because I can get like that. Let me go down here.
What's the best way to introduce ourselves in an elevator speech, or like if someone asks, who are you? So what are the best possible ways to, should we tell our values, I don't know.
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question. If somebody stops you in an elevator, it's usually the expression, you've got 15 seconds on an elevator, how do you explain who you are, right?
Yeah.
Which is absolutely ridiculous, so don't buy into that whole thing. All right, you can do the exercise and get the grade, but it's not really an elevator speech. Nobody's ever stepped into an elevator and asked me who I was. So you just, okay. So this is what I would say. When we present ourselves with our resume, it is because we are shielding ourselves. We're putting a persona on. Because I don't walk into my house every night, or I don't go, way back in the 70s and 80s, we used to meet people by going to bars. And I didn't start with what I've accomplished in a bar. I would talk about, where I live, or what I do, or what I like to do, So it depends on where we are, the situation, and who it is that we're talking to. I would say that what I'd like for you to do is to become aware of how much of a persona you're putting on. So if you find yourself walking into work every day, having to be somebody that you're not, and explaining what you've accomplished, that is not the way you want to live your life. Yes, go ahead.
Just to specify, if I go for an interview,
right,
they will be asked, okay, introduce yourself.
Right.
So what's the best way to start my introduction?
Well, they've already got your resume, right? They already have your resume. So I personally would start with now, knowing what I know now, many years later. I would literally start with, you have my resume, so you know what I've done. Let me tell you a little bit about who I am. And then an easy way to do that is to start with a couple of I believe statements. So in a work environment, I believe that collaboration is core to the success of an organization. I believe that feedback is imperative to us being able, so you're going to refine these, right? And they should all be stated in the positive, not the negative. I heard a couple that maybe kind of came at it from protecting yourself from the negative, but yes.
How fluid should one's credo be?
How what?
Fluid, like, should it be subject to change as the person matures over the course of their life, or?
Sure.
That's fine.
Yeah. So your core values, I would say that there's core values that are just part of like your operating system. But then, you know, if you have a health scare or you lose somebody close to you, then all of a sudden, you know, deep relationships becomes more important. Taking care of your health becomes more important. Making sure that you're caring about the health and care of the people around you becomes more important. So sure, our values are going to shift.
So I know you said that you left your place of work because you didn't know what you were doing right, didn't know what you were doing wrong. How did you know when you were at the right place of work?
You know, I love the younger generations that are coming up. I know you don't hear that very often yet. Because you just naturally assume that we should all be living into our purpose. But those of us who were born in the 50s and the 60s, that's not the way the world was. You didn't live into your purpose, you lived into your responsibility. So I think it was that moment when I said to myself, I've been living into my responsibility. And the way you measure that is by how much you make or what title you have, or, right? That's how I've been living into this whole responsibility thing for so long, and I'm losing myself. Actually, what caused it to start to spiral is my mother passed away. Thank you. It was a long time ago, but yes. But those life-altering moments where you say, the last time my mother came to visit me, I was so busy at work and so busy on the phone and so busy doing the laundry and so busy being responsible that she invited me into the living room to sit down and listen to her read a story to my daughter. And I said no, because I have to put the laundry away. And I missed an opportunity to hear my mom read a book that she'd read to me 1,000,000 times. And I said, this is not the way I want to live my life. So it was I'll tell you that, you can see it still impacts me. Those defining moments in your life where you start to say, living into your purpose, I don't care what you run into in the way of opposition, don't lose that. And pass it on to your kids, please. Because I just think it's one of the greatest evolutionary shifts that I've seen in my life. So yeah, it was a moment like that. And as cool as you guys are, you're going to have moments like that too. So. Did somebody over here? Yeah.
As someone who's an employer, what is like one of the things that you look for most when employing individuals for like the bigger jobs?
Yeah, well, I mean, even entry level jobs. I've hired lots of people that were, sort of like entry level. They were gonna. So I look for people who want to grow. I don't want to fill a position. I want to hire a human being. I look for somebody who is able to think. So sometimes you probably take a lot of classes where they ask you to, I remember math when my daughter went through math class, and they would say, solve the problem and then tell us the story of how you got there. And you guys are probably thinking, are you kidding me? I added 2 + 2, and then I got to write this out in longhand. The whole purpose for that was to get you to a place where you were thinking critically. When I hire people, I need people that are going to think for themselves. I just had a conversation with our analyst today, because we have a client who's going way, way, way too fast. She's a senior executive with a big medical device company. We do a lot of business with this company. And we are working on a huge project with her. It's probably the biggest project that we have going. And this woman just goes 900 miles an hour. She blows up everything in her path. She's a lovely person, but she has no self-awareness as to what this looks like and feels like. And our analyst, she's an analyst, so she has a habit of just, like, somebody tells her she needs to do something and she doesn't. And I said, I need you to not do that. With this client, when somebody gives you a directive in an email and says, I need you to launch these assessments today at 1 o'clock, I want you to stop and think about that. Are we ready to launch them? Have all the communications gone out to the right people? Because I can promise you that our client hasn't thought of any of that. So I need you to be able to think. Don't be afraid to have an opinion. Don't be afraid to speak up. You don't have to fight for it. You don't have to feel like you can have a conversation with the CEO if you want to. You don't have to feel like all doors are open. But when you see something, and you see a better way or a different way or an opportunity, no matter what you hear, speak up. Find somebody that will listen. And that's what I'm looking for, is people that aren't going to be afraid to do that.
Kind of bouncing off that a little bit. I feel like this is something that I kind of struggled with, especially last year when I was like applying for internships. I feel like a lot of us kind of like look the same on paper.
Sure.
Or like we all use a lot of the same words, like driven, confident, all those kind of basic words that you think of or like that you're going to use when interviewing or put on your resume. How do you like differentiate yourself like on paper? You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I think the cover letter is a very dynamic thing, and one of the things that's going on now is that you submit your resume electronically, some sort of bot screens it for certain words, like driven, blah, 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 right? And then if you don't have those words in your resume, you get cut and you never get past the front door. So, excuse me, my daughter just interviewed someplace, or she applied to interview someplace. She made it through the first stage, and then they asked her for a cover letter. Said, you've cleared the first stage. Please submit a cover letter. It's like, okay, well. So I'm with you. It's really challenging today. So I think you should also think about some of those behavioral words, not just the get the work done words, but what are the behavioral words that you want people to know about you? Make them authentic. Okay, I'll tell you another great trick. So every time I wanted to hire somebody, somebody above me would say, well, you need to update the job description. I'm like, oh, God, please. These documents are so long, and there's so many words in there. And then I would read the job description. It's like so dated. The person doesn't even do that anymore. So I'm like, okay, so how do I describe this? Eureka. Go to LinkedIn and look for the job you want to have. Not the one you're interviewing for, but the one maybe one above it or two above it. Read 5 or 6 of them and look for the language that you see in those. Because once you get past entry level, they're looking for behavioral markers. They're called competencies, leadership competencies. And you can Google that too. What are the leadership competencies? There's lots of models out there. But you'll see language across 3 or 4 job descriptions for something 1 or 2 levels above what you're interviewing for. Grab some of that language and get it into your resume. Get it in there honestly. And please spell check it. Grammarly the heck out of that thing. Okay, because I'm in my 60s, and when the grammar isn't right, it goes in the trash. I have to tell you that. Right in the trash. It's like you guys are college educated. If you can't speak English that's understood by people in their 60s, then, like we're still here. We're not invisible. So I'm just telling you the truth. Yeah.
So your work experience and leadership experience is like, and I guess overall organizational communication, how important would you say mitigation, just in a general sense, has been to, I guess, the positions you've been in?
So So what do you say, mitigation?
Mitigation, yeah, like in the wake of, say, conflict within an organization between yourself and employees, between employees working under you, anything like that. Would you say that mitigation tactics have played much more role in ensuring things keep running smoothly?
Well, I mean, I would call that conflict resolution, in my words. I mean, I don't think we walk around in the workplace and mitigate things. But I like the word. I think it's more along the lines of there's some tension and some conflict here. Differences of opinion, that's generally what it's from. It can also be people's core values running up against each other, because we already talked about that. When there's a lot of stress in the workplace, I'm going to go to my core place without thinking about anybody else's core place. And when your core place differs from mine, then we're going to run into each other. So again, this is about being self-aware and being aware that others are different, and then being willing to work through it. So yes, conflict resolution, or mitigation as you call it, is a very important skill, and it starts with communication. It starts with somebody being bold enough to say, and here's an easy way to do that, is to start with the ultimate goal. What are we trying to achieve? Can we agree that we're trying to achieve this? Okay, it sounds to me like you'd like to go to the left, and I'd like to go to the right, but we ultimately want to get to the same place. So how can we work together to smooth through this? What needs to change? And then flexibility, resilience, and you guys have all said it, empathy. Don't forget to be empathetic to yourself. This is a long journey. You guys are at the beginning of a long journey. I'm in my mid-60s, and I just opened up a corporation. I mean, it's a long journey, 70, 80 years old. You guys are going to be at this for a long time. Give yourself a lot of grace. Yeah, and I say this too. My daughter's 24. She's got out of grad school, and I say this to her all the time. You're not looking for your last job. You're looking for your first job. It's all part of the journey of life. And it's a long journey, but it's you're gonna have so much fun. You haven't even thought of stuff yet. It takes you places where you never saw yourself going. We are 1 minute past, and I just want to thank you guys. This has been so fun for me. Happy to come back anytime. Thank you so much for your attention. I hope you all took something away.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, for coming to us today. As we all know, she came from Florida to come and speak to us, so just one more round of applause for her. We really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who came in person today and everyone who attended us virtually online. We hope you all got something out of it. If you would like to review this, if you check out the social media pages for the School of Communication Studies, you'll be able to watch the live stream over. And other than that, everyone have a safe night, and thanks again for coming out.